It's another night of Kings basketball tonight. If you are just tuning into the X or you have not heard, De'Aaron Fox is a scratch tonight for the Kings in Minnesota. It's going to be a tall task. The Kings and the T-Wolves, the top team in the Western Conference. We kick off the night of coverage right here on If You Don't Like That. Welcome to the pregame show.
1, go.
Sacramento miscue. Carter, stolen by Williams. And look at this. Oh, you don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball.
Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. The exclamation point from De'Aaron Fox. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Boy, that's an ESPN highlight right there. Whoa. Carlson comes in. How about this? Holy moly, Jim Bob Foley. That is a major league smush.
Welcome to the pregame show on If You Don't Like That. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. What you are looking at is the strength of schedule remaining. This was coming into play yesterday. So what we're really looking closely at is the Kings, and we're going to scroll down right there. The Kings have the 10th remaining hardest schedule in the NBA, 24 more to go. Minnesota right above them. But let's look at some of the teams that the Kings may be dealing with. The Lakers, can't count them out. They are certainly in play for the play-in. And then the Phoenix Suns, that's the big one that I am looking at. So we bring you back in to the studio. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. Welcome to the pregame show. It's the Kings and the Timberwolves tonight. Full coverage for you right here on If You Don't Like That. Jerry Reynolds, Grant Napier, right here at halftime. It'll be fun as always. And then Grant and I, open phones at the end of the night, taking your calls. Looking forward to it. I'm playing a little hurt tonight, guys. I'm playing a little hurt. So bear with me. It might be a little scratchy, as you can tell. But, hey, no De'Aaron Fox tonight. It surprises me. It does. I'm not sure. Yeah, no Fox again. I'm not sure what to make of it. I mean, it's a bruised knee. That, as far as we know, it is a bruised knee, and that really is a pain tolerance thing. And this is such a critical time in the schedule for the Kings. And speaking of the schedule, we just looked at strength of schedule for the Kings remaining this season. With the Kings' next game a couple days away after this, I think it does make sense to sit Fox tonight in this sense. If you sit him tonight, he gets a couple more days. And when it's something like a knee contusion, which is the latest information I have, if you guys have anything that is more up to date than that, let me know. But with a knee contusion, again, pain tolerance, that's just based off of my personal experiences. That's what it comes down to. So maybe that gives De'Aaron a couple more days to get right. I think my eyes are going to be on the next game for the Kings. If De'Aaron's not playing in that game, I think it's fair to begin asking for some explanations, because that'll be close to, you'll be coming up on almost a week with that injury. And at that point, that's 3 games. So we'll see what they'll do. Now, here's the key to tonight. And if you listened to the Kings Court earlier today, I very much appreciate it. If you did not listen to the Kings Court, one of the things, remember the Kings, they beat Minnesota on their home court earlier this season. And one of the reasons the Kings were able to beat the Timberwolves on their home court, the first loss of the season on their home court for Minnesota, was because of the pace that the Kings played at. The Kings came out and they were shooting the leather off of the basketball. And on top of that, they kept the pressure on Minnesota all game. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is Minnesota has shown at times this season, they have a tendency to not do well, not play well from behind. Also, they have a tendency to not play well when teams are playing at a high tempo. And both of those things the Kings do well. Minnesota has the best defense in the NBA, mind you that. So keep that in mind. But if the Kings can play with pace, that's going to be a big thing. And if the Kings can get that quick start, that's the new key. The Kings have to just have a full-out blitz at the start of this game. There's no questions about it. And part of that, in my opinion, and I get Malik Monk, he's the sixth man. You want him to come off the bench. You want that energy. You got to start Malik Monk tonight. And as I say that, I'm looking up at the starting lineup, and it does not look like it's going to be Malik Monk. It looks like it's going to be Davion Mitchell. So I completely disagree with that. With no De'Aaron Fox, you need full court press right off the bat, because Minnesota, although they're big, really good defensively, they're not as athletic as you would think. So that's what I'm pointing to. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Again, the Kings and the Timberwolves tonight. You got to think this one going into it, expectations are low. I would think this is probably going to be a Kings loss. The Kings have surprised us before, though. They play up to their competition. The first meeting, or the first couple meetings against Minnesota this year, I do want to point this out because we know the Kings struggles defending the three-point line, much like the Kings had actually defended the three-point line pretty well against good opponents, or some good opponents in the Western Conference. The Kings have defended, and Denver specifically is who I'm referencing, the Kings have defended the three-point line really well against Minnesota this year. So if the Kings can possibly ring some of that up again tonight, and I think the key to that tonight, and Anthony Edwards was questionable. I'm still waiting to see. I presume Anthony Edwards is playing, and I'm sure that's probably been announced since I've been on the air. He has been cleared to play 5 minutes ago per Jason Anderson of the Sacramento Bee. So even with him in the lineup, I think the Kings' only chance on defense is the zone defense tonight. The size is going to kill the Kings. I don't think the Kings are going to be able to get out with enough pace to get those big guys running and just kind of get them out of sorts. The Twin Towers for Minnesota, I don't see it happening. I really do hope that I'm wrong. But the zone defense, if you do the zone defense, although Minnesota shoots the three ball well, Minnesota's third in the NBA at shooting the three ball. I think you make them beat you from beyond the three-point line. You push them back a little bit. You give them some different looks. You can do some variations of the zone. You can do a box in one. You can do a 2-3. You can do a 1-3-1. There's so many different things. But the key to that is keeping Anthony Edwards out of the middle, because Anthony Edwards is really the activator, him and Mike Conley, for this team, for the Timberwolves. So Mike Conley, too small to get into that middle. If Mike Conley's getting into the middle of a zone, that's going to be a big problem. Anthony Edwards, he's a perfect fit to get right there. And then obviously if he does, it's going to be open season for them. And again, make them do it. Make them do it, because then you get long rebounds if they're missing. If they're missing their shots, which they did in the first meeting this season in Minnesota, speaking of the Timberwolves missing their shots, then you have a chance if you're Sacramento. And that's assuming you bring your A game. And again, no De'Aaron Fox. I disagree with the decision not to start Malik Monk tonight. I've been a proponent all season of Mike Brown not starting him, but with 24 games left to go in the season, and quite frankly, with this team having a resume full of terrible losses, their margin for error is this. It's this. Their fat storage that most good to great teams have, the Kings don't. So you got to treat every game as a must win if you're Mike Brown and if you're the Kings. You have to. It is a must win scenario much earlier in the season than many of the playoff teams. So, hey, we appreciate you being here on If You Don't Like That. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. This is the Kings pregame show. We'll be back at halftime. Grant and Jerry will be here. Looking forward to that. Hey, do me a favor. Go check out my new podcast. Actually, episode 21 dropped today. That's the King's Court. It's available. That's the link to the Apple version, but you can find it on Spotify and all other podcast platforms. That is my daily short form Kings Insider podcast. I usually try to keep it to about 10 minutes. Today was a very special episode to me. I called it the deposition of Ryan in Sacktown. Go check it out if you're interested. We're coming up on almost 2 years that I've been working with Grant here on If You Don't Like That. And, I felt like it was appropriate. I wanted to introduce myself to some of you that may not know about me. And there's some fun stuff in there. So go check it out. That is the King's Court. Also, we're going to be taking calls tonight, as I said. We love taking your calls. So get those lined up. We'll take a lot of them in the post-game show. But I'm going to bring my buddy up because he calls every now and again, not usually on the pre. What's up, NBA guru Zach?
What's up, Ryan? I had to call in because I wanted to actually talk about a couple things from the past because I missed the Denver game post game.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing too crazy. You guys talked about it. I was kind of not upset, but I'll use the word upset for getting Sabonis back in that end. I mean, I know it's a cool record and everything to have, but I mean, I'm scared of injuries. We can't risk any injuries. And guess what? He started bleeding at the end of the game because he got put back in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that's something there. Number two, I want to talk about something that I think you said. I can't. You got to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but
yeah,
there was something you said where you said for the players that are playing this year on the Kings, the number one best player was Sabonis, and number two was Keegan, and three was Fox. You still buy that? You still buy that statement?
Yeah. If you're talking, I'm not talking about if you lined the Kings up 1 through 15 and said we're going to play one-on-one king of the court. I'm talking about if you look at the three best all-around basketball players on both sides of the court this year, I 100% rank it Demonis, Keegan, and then De'Aaron.
Interesting. Well, how come you put Keegan ahead of Fox? I mean, Fox is averaging even more points than last year. He's getting way more 3-pointers than last year. He's averaging better.
That slowed down.
I had to release everything, man.
I know. Hey, it's all right, man. Throw your Hail Mary at me. It's good. No, I get it. Fox had a good season. Okay, he's had a good season. He has not taken the jump, Zach, that he took last year. I didn't expect that jump, but quite honestly, outside of the outbursts that we've seen from De'Aaron, I actually think he's regressed this season. Yeah, the three-pointer's been better. What about his free throw percentage? What about his defense? And what about his leadership, Zach? I mean, how many games did he go without talking to the media?
Yeah, I agree. His leadership was definitely a little decline there. I do agree. Free throw, I mean, I can't complain there. It's like almost 10%. Pretty bad stuff right there. We got to give props to the 3-point percentage at least. That's huge that he got his 3-pointers up. That make him better. I know his field goal percent's down a little bit this year as well. Another thing, I know his defense. He's interesting because when he wants to play defense, he's one of the best guard defenders, I think. If he's trying his all-time best. I think just when he goes through the pick and rolls on the other team, he just knows how to slide between the player on the screener.
Yeah, he does.
He knows how to do that very well. That's very rare. It's really kind of cool. It's like a snake almost, how it goes around the screener. But one thing also, I mean, I know this is not even a good indicator of defense or anything, but he has last year at 1.1 steals, this year 1.9. He's getting the steals up. I think maybe he's taking more risks, I guess. You think? That's probably because you always see him take those risks on the fast break, and he gets a fast break bucket or something for a dunk. Has that once or twice a game. So maybe he is taking a little bit more risk. But, definitely it's tough to say decline. But, yeah, overall probably a little bit of decline. But, it's just it was just interesting to hear Keegan over Fox. But I know Keegan's been playing great D this year, obviously. So, but both sides. I mean, if we're putting Fox all the way up, well, might as well just put Keegan number 1 if we're doing defense and offense.
No. You can't do that with what Domas has done this year. There's no way. But here, I want to ask you this since I have you here. Okay. I don't know if you saw, maybe it was 2 shows ago. It was either Grant and Jerry. I think it was actually after the Nuggets game. We're talking about where does De'Aaron Fox rank amongst NBA point guards? Is he a star or a superstar? Well, when we see him match up against SGA, hasn't gone well, right? When we see him or they play the Nuggets and you see a guy like Jamal Murray, arguably that's in probably a class above, but maybe at best the same class as De'Aaron, at best for De'Aaron, I should say. But those guys that play with a really, really good forward or a good big man that can play inside or play inside out, they get the most out of their big man, Zach. I mean, Jamal Murray squeezes every single drop out of Jokic, and it feels like that chemistry. And I'm not putting it all on De'Aaron, but there's not chemistry between Fox and Sabonis. And those are your 2 stars. And then that's why it stands out even more, Zach, when Monk comes off the bench and you see him running pick and rolls and dishing to guys, because, Zach, those looks are open a lot of times when De'Aaron's coming off that same pick.
That's true. I do agree with you there. When Monk's coming off the screens, you always see him. He's looking for the pick or he's taking that little floater. That's literally the only 2 options unless he has an open lane. Definitely. And Fox, yeah, he's not. You don't see that as much like Monk. Monk always has like a few of those a game with Sabonis going right in for the pick and roll. With Sabonis he gets a bunch of them, honestly. But with Fox, yeah, you don't see it quite as much. You see the mid-range game with Fox off the screens for Sabonis is what you kind of think about when you think about the pick and roll with them too. Yeah, I mean, he's averaging the same number of assists as last year. He could do a little bit better. I think the usage is just a lot for Sabonis. I think the usage rate for Sabonis is pretty high, and he's going to take a lot of the time. He's going to take a lot of the time on the shot clock. He's just trying to get people open. Kevin's running around him. Keegan's running around. Harrison doesn't even get the ball that much, to be honest. He's not as aggressive as he should be. But I definitely agree. It's hard. You can't really call Fox a superstar right now. He's definitely a star, I think. But
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, superstar. It's close. Yeah, it's not there for the SGA though. Tell me if I'm wrong, but he's 2-1. We're 2-1 against OKC. I think one of the wins we did not have Fox. I think Davion started, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right, Zach. I think it was the first OKC game. It was in Sacramento. I think it was an in-season tournament game.
Right, that's the one we won, and we have 2 wins against them, correct?
Yes, we have 2 wins because then they got the latter one when I believe Fox was back in that game.
Right.
There was. Yeah. So I would have to go back and check. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Look, I love De'Aaron Fox. I think when he is on and he is engaged, he is a freaky player. You pointed out the defense and the deflections. That one on Vassell against the Spurs was one of the freakiest plays I've seen, like hands down, Zach. So
one of the things one more thing I want to say. Davion, when he's playing with the starters, I think I saw in the lineups, he's a minus 12.5. Yeah. Some awful stats. I do agree.
Terrible.
We got to get Monk. We got to get Monk on there starting. He's the only one that could play make on this team pretty much, other than Sabonis. So it would be nice. But I do know we have a good record with Keon starting. I think we might be 3-0. So we might as well give him a shot. And see if we can go 4-0. This one's going to be a tough win, like you were saying earlier. I'm not expecting it. If the Kings win today, I'll come back on and I don't know. I'll do something. I'll do something.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate it. I mean, they're gonna have to throw everything against the wall to see what sticks. And I do think though they have a better chance of winning this one tonight than they did in Denver. So we'll see. Zach, I appreciate the call, man.
All right, thanks. Take care, Ryan.
All right, buddy.
That's it.
Zach's the man. He always brings it. I'm not trying to poo-poo De'Aaron Fox. Let's be clear about it. Scuba, I appreciate it. Thank you. I do some other shows. I got my podcast, The King's Court, but they have super chats on here. If you would like to donate, Grant would appreciate it, and I would appreciate it. But anyways, I'm not trying to poo-poo what De'Aaron means to this team. I mean, the jump he took last year was tremendous. I think that the way that teams are defending the Kings has shifted. You look at how long it's taken Sabonis to adjust to that. And it might be taking De'Aaron time, but I think it's fair to ask some of the questions that I asked when I was talking to Zach. And I think we have to look at this too. I mean, let's take what we know about De'Aaron Fox out of the conversation, okay? Let's absolutely take how great he is off the court, seems to be a really good family man, good example for young kids, not in trouble at all. You hardly ever hear anything off the court unless it's something good. So all really good things. So let's take all those aside from De'Aaron, okay? It's De'Aaron's 7th year, y'all. Like, it's time to do it or get off the pot. I mean, the Kings have big decisions to make. So if let's just say this, Sabonis continues on a tear, okay? Sabonis continues on a tear, but there's still, this offense seems to be off. If you had to go out and get a different point guard, and De'Aaron Fox has never been in Sacramento, is he the type of point guard that you would want to go get for what the Kings are trying to do? Seriously, does his game fit exactly what the Kings are trying to do? And not if it doesn't, is his game good enough to where the system should fit around him? So those are all those conversations. And Grant brought it up on the last post-game show. If the Kings don't make the play-in, if they miss altogether this season, he thinks there's going to be big changes to this roster. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom whatsoever. Look, the Kings have had a very good season for running it back. It's been a different season, that is for sure. Dealt with injuries and chemistry. You would have thought the chemistry would have actually gone the other way. You would have thought it would have been stronger. It's actually regressed to me a little bit. And nobody seems to be able to put their finger on it. But what we do know is the Kings are in Minnesota tonight, and they're getting ready to tip off here in a little bit. Minnesota, the number 1 ranked team in the Western Conference. No De'Aaron Fox. Anthony Edwards is playing for Minnesota. As I said to Zach a few minutes ago, I actually think the Kings have a better chance of getting this one tonight. Just the way that the matchups are and the zone defense. I hope the Kings are able to throw some of that in tonight, because I think that will throw off the Timberwolves. And I may be wrong, but I thought the Kings may have thrown some of that in last time against the Timberwolves, or I should say the first time against the Timberwolves in Minnesota. Hey, it's the weekend, y'all. You know what that means. It is time for some brunch at Bennett's. Hey, go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Go check out their brunch menu. Go check out their brunch specials. You can get 2 entrees and a bottle of champagne for $44. Pretty hard to beat these days. Also, they've got wonderful, wonderful specials during the week. Great happy hour. And if you're got a big party or an office get-together or a family reunion, think about Bennett's. Many of their locations have beautiful private dining rooms away from the rest of the dining room. So yeah, go to bennettsrestaurants.com to find out more information. Bennett's West Side Grill, located in Rockland in the Blue Oaks Town Center. All right. It is the Kings. It is the Timberwolves. It is Bennett's still on the screen. Go to Bennett's. Bennett's now. Sorry. Just having some fun. Kings and the Timberwolves getting ready to tip off in just a few minutes. And we know the score. Hopefully the Kings can come out and have a strong performance, catch some chemistry early. The key is the Kings have to get a big lead right out of the gate in this game. They have to push the pressure, and their room for error in this game is very small. So the little things, the fringe things that sometimes the Kings struggle with, Those all need to go the Kings' way. You also need to get a big performance from your bench. The bench has been inconsistent at best as of late. So that's what I'm looking at. Also, the offensive boards, you got to watch that. You really do. And the Kings are actually pretty good about keeping teams off of the offensive boards. And they did a good job last time against Minnesota. So I don't think Minnesota, Mike Conley Jr., outside of Mike Conley Jr. and Anthony Edwards, I'm not so sure that some of them don't value the ball. And what I mean by that is I think that you could put some pressure on them and force a turnover here and there. And so great time to throw some Kessler Edwards at him, maybe throw some Davion as we talked about. But really quick, the last thing I'll say about Davion Mitchell, because he is starting for De'Aaron Fox, the thing I am looking for right out of the gate is aggressiveness from him. My biggest criticism of Davion Mitchell has not been his shooting. We know his offense has been limited. We know his three-point shot can look good. It can look awful. It's inconsistent. But the biggest thing that I had with Davion was he was robotic to me. He was going to spots. You knew what he was going to do. It was almost like he wasn't playing basketball. He didn't have his eyes up, right? Well, when Davion got back in Mike Brown's rotation, that changed. He was pushing the pace, getting to the rim, getting to the foul line, and he was making his threes. So if you make your threes, great. That's the icing on my cake. I just want my cake, which is Davion pushing the pace because they've got to do it against Minnesota tonight. So I'm looking at that. So Kings Timberwolves getting ready to start right now. Come back with us at halftime. We would love to have you. Grant Napier, Jerry Reynolds. I always just want to say Grant, Napes and Jerry will be here at halftime. We will break down the first half. Hopefully we're talking about a very, very competitive one. And then after the game, we will take your phone calls. No De'Aaron Fox for the Kings. Davion Mitchell takes his spot. First half coming up for you. It's the Kings and the T-Wolves. We'll see you at halftime. Go Kings.